was absolutely revolutionary. It's not the greatest album of that decade, but it probably is the most groundbreaking album of that decade.
I saw you, baby, walking in your Gingham dress. I knew you under your dress. I knew you were under duress. Just keep coming, Jesus, you're the best dressed. You look dandy in the sky, but you don't scare me, 'cause I got you here in my eye. In this lifetime, you got my human gets me blue. The way you were dancing, I knew you'd never come back. You were straining to keep your old black track patent shoes. In this lifetime, you got my human gets me blue.
Beefheart really didn't have a consciousness about what he was doing. He was just smashing into things and falling and celebrating the beauty of his nature and always looking to stop the mind, always looking to stop the mind of others around him, of himself, so that true beauty could flow.
Despite a creative lull in the middle of the decade, on a succession of albums throughout the 1970s, Beefheart's unique artistic vision continued to flow freely. Yet his output was so distinctive and often so difficult that its influence rarely spread outside of the musical underground. Yet Waits heard in it a primal, unique quality that would heavily inspire his artistic U-turn.
I think you can hear the influence of Beefheart before Swordfish Trombones. I mean, I think you can hear it to a degree, even on like Blue Valentines and Heart Attack and Vine. You know, let's not forget that a lot of Beefheart's work may be off the scale of zaniness, but there are tracks on sort of Clear Spot, and there are other things that Beefheart's done over the years that adhere more closely to a sort of conventional Chicago R&B kind of sensibility, you know, and he can do that.
Give me the willies, driving it round and around. Oh, I got a boogie on, oh, I got a boogie around.
So, you know, on things like Sweet Little Bullet from a Pretty Blue Gun on Blue Valentines, and on Heart Attack and Vine itself, you know, I mean, the way, you know, Waits is singing, you know, don't tell me this guy hasn't heard Captain Beefheart.
They do good business every time it rains for all those little girls with nothing in their jeans but sweet little wishes after the blood drain. But at night, when it's raining,
He would claim he hadn't really heard Captain Beefheart, and he gives a lot of credit to Kathleen Brennan for turning him on to Captain Beefheart. I find it impossible to believe, you know, not least because, you know, Waits had toured with Frank Zappa, who was, you know, Beefheart's great mentor, and was managed by the guy who managed Captain Beefheart. I mean, I find it impossible to believe that Waits had not really heard Captain Beefheart before Swordfish Trombones, or before this, you know, working on the music that he made in the 80s. The Beefheart influence does become more palpable, obviously, on Swordfish Trombones and Rain Dogs. The instrumentation, just the quirkiness of the arrangements and the textures, you know, on Swordfish Trombones, whether it's just the use of marimba, which is obviously a very important part of Swordfish Trombones, or whether it's the Beefheart, you know, or rather Howlin Wolf via Beefheart that you hear on things like 16 Shells and Gin Soaked Boy. You know, that is Tom channeling Howlin Wolf via Captain Beefheart.
I got a better for you. That lemon was stuck. Now I'm gonna get out. Now I'm gonna get tough.
He started using more of the pinched trachea sound in some of his songs. And what I mean by that is before that he was more of a guttural kind of low voice. But then he started using more of the pinched trachea, which is like the Howlin Wolf or the that kind of sound, you know, where it's more pinched and thin.
Some gin so boy that you don't know. I come home last night.
Outside of the influence of Van Vliert's vocal delivery, Waits also incorporated elements of the Magic Band's instrumental approach into his music. A key component of Beefheart's late 60s and early 70s albums was the use of the marimba, and this would become a dominant instrument in Waits' new musical template. The guitar work of the Magic Band, in particular that of Bill Harkleroad, aka Zoot Horn Rollo, was unmistakable, however, and this too would inspire Waits.
The innovative sound and the style and structure, especially the way Harkleroad played, and the whole idea of that was to get as close to actually reproducing what was played on the piano, because guitar is played in a completely different manner than piano. So when you take a piano idea, a piano riff, and actually put it to guitar, suddenly you're playing more in a classical style rather than, you know, big power chords. So it becomes much more difficult to navigate each section of the song. Another thing that I think added to the sound was the fact that the guitarists used Fender guitars with a kind of a screechy, you know, fingernails on the chalkboard kind of screechy sound, rather than something that could be considered power chords or something that sounded refreshing to the ears or comfortable to the ears. It made people feel a little uncomfortable to listen to.
And although this distinctive style could be found in Fred Tackett's guitar work on Swordfish trombones, it was the recruiting of Mark Ribot into the Rain Dogs band that brought this approach to the fore.
Ribot definitely bases what he does on the way Beefheart's guitarists worked in the Magic Band. You know, is that sort of angular, atonal, just sort of intuitive playing that, again, had never really been heard in rock before, like Trout Mask Replica.
Clap hands.
Mark Ribot's guitar playing, what I heard in there was just a faint touch of Zoot Horn Rollo, the ghost of Zoot Horn, you might say, in the background, inspiring that, yeah.
And when recording the third in his groundbreaking mid-80s trilogy, Frank's Wild Years, Waits recruited Moris